Order. My thanks to the member for his fine floor speech and abstention. Just a notice to whoever is raining down sweeties. Could you please, could we please resist the urge to share confectionaries with everyone in the chamber? Moving on to our last round of paper speeches. In proposition, we are now joined by Dr. Catherine Hakim. Dr. Catherine is a pioneering social scientist currently serving as a Professorial Research Fellow with Civitas. Her professional experience spans central government, consultancy, and academia. As a senior research fellow in LSE, she developed preference theory and a theory of the social and economic value of erotic capital. She is an internationally recognized expert on women's employment, social and family policy. Catherine, you have the ears of the House.
I'm delighted to be involved in such an interesting debate, and I'm really impressed by very persuasive and elegant speeches that have been offered on both sides, as it happens. I'm going to argue for decriminalisation for three very simple reasons that no one has addressed. And the reason they haven't been addressed is that the vast majority of the discussion so far, to someone in my case, because I have done research on it, it's 19th century attitudes and perspectives and values, 20th century perspectives and research and values. I don't hear very much, apart from my colleague Catherine's speech, that belongs to the 21st century, the reality of sex work today. Streetwalkers have ended almost everywhere. It's gone inside. Streetwalkers are now estimated to be something like 10% of the total sex industry. Why do academics and others, journalists, do studies of streetwalkers? Because they're accessible, because they're easy. Yes, they're the ones who are drug addicts. Yes, they're the ones who didn't have much choice. Yes, they're the ones who are vulnerable, if you want to call it that, a very overused and misused word. Do they study internal, private, brothel-based sex work? Hardly ever, because it's hidden, because it's invisible, because it's not accessible. So a lot of the attitudes, values, and statements of fact about sex work are out of date, massively out of date. I mean, I'm really a bit shocked in some cases that they're still being paraded. People don't live in the 21st century. Three reasons why it should be decriminalised. First, I'm talking about Britain. It really irritates me personally when, if people can't win an argument in relation to Britain, they say, well, some other developing country has the problem. Well, we're in Britain. We're talking about Britain. I'm not talking about India. I know you want to talk about India. I'm not talking about India. I'm talking about Britain. I know a lot about brothels and prostitution in India. We're talking about Britain. Today, in Britain, decriminalisation. Three reasons. One, the law is a mess. The law on the sex industry is a mess. Now, some people say, generally the law in Britain is a mess, and it's because it's a combination of case law and statute law, so it's messier than in many other countries. It's a mess in America as well, obviously. I read somewhere that tax law in Britain runs to 750 pages. Well, if that's just tax law, you can't imagine what the rest of the law is. It's ridiculous. So the law is a mess, and a very obvious example is that it's legal to sell sexual services in Britain, but it's not legal to have a brothel, for example. So that's the first thing. I mean, it's a mess. You move on. The second reason and this is a 21st century reason, is that there is no clear dividing line between voluntary sexual relations between private people and the sex industry. There's a very, very fuzzy, grey, blurred line today in the way things operate at the moment. And that's just being overlooked. So even if you were pro or anti, the fact that there's this huge and expanding middle group makes it difficult for criminalisation to have any proper purchase or serious control. The third reason, and to my personal opinion is the most important one, is criminalising sex work is misogynistic, it punishes women, it controls women, it's male law designed exclusively and entirely to keep women down. One of the reasons for this, that's very obvious in the discussion we've had so far, is not a single reference has been made to men who sell sex work, because men who sell sex work are never treated as vulnerable and drug addicts and they have no choice and all the rest of it. All the emphasis is on women. Well, that's fair because the majority of sex workers are women and the majority, almost all, the customers are male. But they're customers for male sex work. And nobody ever bothers to say that it's important to control men who offer sexual services. That tells you that the reason why we have laws against it are because they are misogynistic, male control of female. What is it?
Messy, or that we're not looking at very statistically small numbers or groups of people who partake or sell sex work. The crux of the issue really is about women, men who want to have sex with those women, paying money, which is why, by the way, I don't think that this is a misogynistic law. The men want to have sex with the women. Like, if this is a misogynistic law to criminalize sex, you're taking away lots of the clientele which are men.
Please keep POI short.
It's just minorities is a bit misleading, and frankly, I don't think it tackles across.
Sorry, what's misleading?
Focusing on men sex workers, on women who...
Well, it's not misleading. It's not misleading in the slightest degree. The point is, and I've published an article on it, there is a thing called the male... There is something that I call the male sex deficit, which is that men, for whatever reasons, you can call them social, biological, political, or anything else, vastly more interested in sexual activity than the vast majority of women. And that's a fact, that's a reality. That actually applies in your developing countries as well as the Western world. I mean, that is simply a fact of life that isn't going to change. So all this nonsense talk about we've got to reduce demand. Reduce demand? Demand is growing. Demand for sex work around the world is growing. Study after study has shown that it is growing. Why is it growing? First, because a rich society, rich individuals buy luxuries. Sexual activity is a luxury. Fine food is a luxury. Holidays are a luxury. People buy luxuries if they become richer. And it's also growing because more people can actually afford it. In the past, and well, today it is still very highly stratified with lower-end, cheaper products and qualities and higher-end qualities, but the demand is growing partly because the world is getting richer and luxuries are appreciated. Yes?
We just go back to the point, Stephen, Prophet St. John, why you keep on referencing that you want to speak about India and developing countries.
I won't talk about developing countries anymore. I'll talk about Europe and Britain. Right. There's the blurring middle thing, which is, I think, is most important. One of the most popular products in sex industry is the girlfriend experience. This is a date that exactly replicates an ordinary date between a man and a woman. They go out and they may have drinks or dinner, they may go dancing or whatever, and there is guaranteed to be sex included as part of the date. And that is unusual in the sense that some men can't guarantee that they're going to have what they see as success at the end of the date, so they prefer something where the success, as far as they see it, is definitely included. Things like sugar daddies, sugar babies. As it happens, I know because I got involved in a broadcast on this a long time ago. Cambridge students are involved in the sugar daddy, sugar baby thing. So the point about the sex industry is that it's mostly young women, and the reason they're there is because the research shows that the earnings of a sex worker are somewhere between double and 40% higher than that woman could earn in a job that's accessible to her. In Britain, the majority, very high proportion of people in sex work are educated, graduates, and some of them are even postgraduates. We're not talking about an industry that only recruits people who are without any choice whatsoever at all. They're making intelligent choices, they're making profitable choices, and they're making modern choices for women. And the result of all this is that in future, men are going to have to pay a hell of a lot more for sex in one shape or form or another, not just in money. And that they are not selling their bodies. That was a point I completely forgot to say. What they're selling is erotic capital, which is something I have written a whole book about. And women score much higher than men on erotic capital. And so it's not surprising that women score better as sex workers. But the point is, women are selling erotic capital, they're not selling bodies. Men who do sex work are not selling bodies. They too are selling a very different kind of erotic capital. So it's being misunderstood as to what is happening here. Thank you.